We're back. You're in a nice, comfy setting there.
I am. I'm working from home today, which is nice.
No practice or anything?
No, we're off until next Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah, which has been good. When you asked for the extra 15 minutes, I was like, "Oh, that's perfect because I can get some Christmas shopping done on my phone right now."
We got a heated debate, of course, going on. The transfer portal is a never-ended heated debate that creates never-ending controversy. So we were talking about that, and we had a guest on, and we're just kind of discussing that whole thing there. I
Nice.
see. It's interesting. Now I was just looking right now because I have my stream, the other show going on to Instagram, and I could see Steve Cully's ranting. So it's time to cut him off the Instagram. He's on my Instagram ranting. I'm not trying to lose followers once I leave there. That's the last thing.
Oh my gosh.
I can see if they're yelling into it. It looks like his guest is gone. So
Man.
Steve,
You gotta love the passion, but it's listen, it's an unavoidable problem for everybody.
Unavoidable problem. It's an unavoidable problem.
It's not just us. It's everybody.
And it keeps getting exacerbated by all. Do you see the new thing that they did with quarterback for Vanderbilt?
Oh no, I didn't even see that, but I did see the JuCo ruling.
Yeah, that's who it's from.
Oh, is that who it's from? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. I had my assistant coach texted me and was like, "Does this affect us?" And I'm like, "Listen, if somebody's D3 talent, they're D3 talent. It doesn't really matter if they go to a JuCo for a year or not." I actually think it helps us. You know who I think it's going to hurt the most, honestly, is these prep schools and these high schools that rely on getting reclassed athletes, because now, why would you stay in high school an extra year if you don't have to? You can just go play JuCo for a year and it doesn't affect your NCAA eligibility.
Agreed. Well, you are going to get, and I tried to, these, I love like TikTok and like how they have these shorts, and YouTube has to have the shorts and stuff. But if I don't save it right there, it's like gone forever, and I don't know how to get these videos back. But there was a video I was starting to watch, and I get on how to do it at college hockey, which I know zero about, where guys are going. They said that the other sports are going to become more like college hockey is, where these guys come in super old, like super old.
Yep.
And they're basically like, I don't know if they were minor league guys. I didn't get to watch the whole thing, but I got the gist of that. Basically, you're going to have, if this holds up, players that can do JuCo. Shoot, you go to prep school, then go to JuCo, then get redshirted, and then still have 4 years. So you could be 20. What would that make you? 8 years down the road, 26-year-old. You'd have
26.
A ton of 26-year-old seniors.
But you know what's funny, Dave, is like the way that I look at it is from a professional standpoint. Now, I don't mean sports. I mean like out in the real world. The crazy part right now that we see hiring people, or that I see all the time, these kids are doing that anyways, because, and the reason why I say that is a kid goes to college, they spend the first 2 years partying. They don't really know what they want to do yet. They spend the next 2 years figuring out their major. Then maybe they got to stay an extra year to finish it. Then they go and they get their master's, so they're in school another 2 years. It's the same thing. It's just now it's sports is delaying it instead of the academics.
I never thought about that before.
Yeah. So it's really not like when I interview a 21 or a 22-year-old that has already graduated college, I'm more surprised than anything, because these kids are delaying going out into the workforce regardless now.
So you're saying this gives them more time to mature and hone their skills,
figure out what they want to do.
Yeah. It's interesting because they're just going to end up, if they're smart, they'll basically be grad students for 2 or 3 years and have their masters. Unless they're an elite player. And if they're an elite player, they're just going to leave early anyway, I'm guessing. So let's
If they're
say
an elite player, they're probably not going JuCo.
football, you do
Maybe
some,
for academics,
yeah,
for
yeah,
example,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. Like there's a
But
ton of pro football players that were JUCOs,
yeah,
but but if you're good enough, you know you're going to get drafted. You're just going to come out anyway.
exactly.
There's no timeline on that. What it will crush, I think in football. Now other sports may be different. I think in football, the only thing I definitely is going to crush the prep school thing, which I don't know if that's a big deal, but what it will crush is high school. And my only concern with football, maybe not any other sport, is that will football players, because of the injury threat, see the end game on the line with that and think that they want to follow that long, windy road and stay in football? I'm saying, like, versus going to another sport
Yeah,
where, I mean, if you think about your own kids, like you would say, okay, you go and play, I don't know, let's say you go play basketball. And even if you're not quite there yet, you go in JUCO, and it's not a big deal really, because your body's not, you're getting beat up, but you're not getting like injured. But
right.
football, every year of playing increases the risk of getting injured, because at some point you're going to get injured. It's just a matter whether it's serious or not, right? So I wonder if people will choose other sports. And I think that's the danger of football. But football's doing it to themselves, because everything has to do with football as far as money-wise with this stuff. So it really is football doing it to themselves, not anyone else doing it to football. Because if it wasn't all the money flowing through football, even though there's a ton of money in basketball, it's select players. There's so much more money flowing through in football that football's doing it to themselves. Like everything else would have just remained status quo, and you would hear this rule and no one would really even bat an eye. But because it's football, it changes all the dynamics so quickly. Okay, I wanted to ask you about your statement the other day.
Mm-hmm.
You're not off the hook from that statement, which was a great statement about Diana, and it was at the end of the show. So we didn't dive too deeply in it. And as you know, with Joe D'Ambrosia, we got to keep to that timeline, because I think he starts to lose it. I don't think he loses it with me. Definitely is not going to lose it with you, but he probably loses it with big old Steve at that point.
Yeah.
So, but I thought you really brought up a really, really interesting, enlightening, and very smart point as to a possible successor to Geno with Diana. And I always thought, watching her play from the outside, obviously, not you were on the inside because you play with her, but from the outside looking in, she has like um, a personality beyond her knowledge of the game and her skills, a personality that would fit at a place like UConn. And I think about what Geno was like before you even got there. When I was, there, he was young, he was a young guy. And part of what attracted like Rebecca and the other girls to him was his charisma, not just his, obviously he did a great job taking the program from the doldrums to where it was at that point already. But the charisma, like that's what you saw, was the charisma. He was young at the time, probably, I don't know, 40 or so, and was able to engage with the women and be able to use that charisma to get recruits to come to him, to be able to get other coaches to come to him, to build a program around him, and then the university to buy into what he was doing. And I think that what you brought up with Diana, I think really, really could work, because she has that she's kind of like she reminds me of a young female Geno, with the way she is, as far as how she approaches things. When I remember Geno walking around campus and like first getting involved, you know what I mean? Now he's an elder statesman. He still has that fire, but he's much more thought out in how he approaches things. He's a grandfather, I'm sure, at this point, and has that kind of approach. So, is that kind of what your thoughts were when you were thinking about that? Is that
Well, I think for me, like, I don't obviously question her basketball acumen at all. I mean, she knows how to run a practice. She knows how to run an offense. She knows how to make adjustments. Like, she knows the game inside and out. You don't need to coach her 20 years to be able to do that. I mean, there's a lot of bad coaches at every level that somehow they stumble into these jobs and they keep them for a really long time and they don't know what she knows in her pinky finger, right? So I don't really question any of that stuff. And there's a lot of candidates that fit that same like box, right? They check that box. But for me, what I think in this generation, and I'm just talking women's basketball in generalities, right? Because the sport has grown so much. There was no other sports franchise that grew more in the last 24 months than the WNBA, right? So I think with the increased attention on the sport, intense scrutiny in some ways, like coaching at that level, I think takes a lot more than just knowing X's and O's. I think it takes a really strong personality. I think it takes someone who can be relatable to this generation and someone that this generation will respect, not only as someone who's done it, but someone who can communicate it, teach it, and then continue to evolve and change the game. I think that, listen, whoever steps into his shoes has an unbelievable burden on their shoulders, right? Because they're never going to be him. It's almost like that thought, like you don't want to be the next one, you want to be the one after the next one. Like we've seen that many times.
That's true.
Because I think it's just going to be really, really tough. But I think that with like everyone sees what a strong personality she has. She's great with the media. She's funny. She's outgoing. She's well spoken. I think she's well thought. She's not afraid to be authentically unique, which I think is really crucial with this generation. Like they respect people who are authentically themselves. What I think a lot of people don't know or probably don't see as much because she is very private and very guarded in a lot of different ways. She is an amazing human being. Like she genuinely cares. She genuinely cares about UConn. She genuinely cares about her teammates, her family, her friends. There's just that care factor that she possesses that, in addition to all the other things that I just named, make her such a great fit, in my opinion. Now, this is like wish list for me, right? Like I would love to see her come and take it over. I'm not saying that she wants it or she would get hired or like whatever. I just think if I had a crystal ball and I could script how it would go, I think too, it's like she has such a close relationship with him that's very unique. With all the players that he's had over time, he has a really special relationship with her and her background and her parents and, communicating with her parents and, mom coming over from Italy, dad coming from Argentina, that type of thing. So there's a really big connection there between that. And I think that she genuinely cares about the legacy for him. That I just think it makes it really special. Like, I know Joe brought up Carla. I think Carla's an awesome coach. I think she does a phenomenal job. And it's not a hit on Carla or Shay. I think they both would be amazing coaches, but it's a big task to step into his shoes. You need a really big personality. There's a lot of demands that you don't even see on the surface. And I think she'd be perfect for it. It's funny because I brought it up to Meg Kumo probably about, it had to be like 6-8 months ago. She was the first person that I told besides Diana. And she was like, oh my gosh, I love it. And then when I was up there 2 months ago, or not even 2 months ago, for his record-breaking game, I brought it up to Jem Rosati. And Meg actually called me the other day and she goes, "Do you know she was quoted in the paper saying that she thinks Diana should be the next head coach?" I go, "You better tell her that's mine. I'm taking commission on that. That was my idea from the jump to do that." But I think it hit her like, wow, she really would be awesome. And I think anyone who knows the program that I've said it to and knows her is like, wow, that would be like serendipitous. If it would ever happen, I have no idea. But like, that would be ideal situation. Um, and I think there's other variables that obviously go into it in terms of her deciding that. But like, tell me a more loved women's basketball player than Diana Taurasi.
I think she's the most famous recruit as well of all the recruits he has, because he talks so much about. This was when I was at. What was your first year in college? What year was it?
So I was a freshman, fall of 2000. So 2001, 2000 to 2001 was my first year.
And what was her first year there?
Same. Yeah, we were the
Same year. So
Yep.
I remember I remember how like all the hoopla about it. I guess I was just out and they kept talking about it because I remember she came off the bench that first year, right?
Yeah, it's like I said the other day, like our roster was so stacked that year that she came off the bench. Tamika Williams came off the bench. Like,
Yep.
it was insane. I mean, our starting five was Sue, Shea, Svetlana, I think Swin, and Schumacher. So you had Tamika Williams, Diana Taurasi coming off the bench. You had Kenitra Johnson back then. Asia Jones, I think. Yeah, Asia Jones was off the bench. I mean, it was just wild.
That's
But
crazy.
I think too, like if you think about it, like if you go and I see the Connecticut reporters all the time because I'm still here.
Right.
If you ask them till this day, and Joe kind of spoke to it, their favorite player to interview was always her because she's like, she's going to give you a fun answer. She's going to give you a correct answer, but like, she's going to make you feel like you're part of it. Like, there's just something about her personality that's so attractive and so likable that, from a recruiting standpoint, yeah, would she need some help getting organized and learning like the back end of how stuff works? Like, yes, of course, anybody would. Anyone who takes that job, because it would be different than what they're used to, is going to need that. But I think she can spot talent. That's for sure. She's already entrenched in, some of the high school stuff. She has her own AAU teams out in California, so she's entrenched in that. I think the one caveat is like, would she want to do that? She could do anything. She can go own a franchise, right? She can go be a WNBA coach easy. I think anyone would hire her in a heartbeat. I think that college is a lot tougher and it's a grind, right? So it's a little bit different. And she's been grinding since she was 10 years old. So it's a matter of, will she want to do that? Will her family want to make the jump? And then obviously would the university be willing to give her a chance? But like, I don't find there to be much risk there. Do you? I mean, I know Joe kind of talked about it a little bit, but I mean, I think it's like a no-brainer.
I think, that's one of the beauties to me, I think, in women's basketball is that you can kind of take some risky. I mean, UConn's a little different because Geno obviously established kind of a culture and a program, but I think you could take a little bit more risk. Like the fan base, UConn fan base is probably one of the few fan bases that they're probably in the know with that stuff, like on a regular basis. There might be a couple other ones, Tennessee, obviously a couple others, but I think it's one of those things that I think there would be so much excitement around it, and
100%.
the hardest thing she would have to deal with being a superstar athlete for so long and really, really being, I mean, I don't think she's ever been below the top, right? So, being at the top for so long, winning so many championships, essentially being beloved is having to deal with when she starts to have detractors, which she's going to have, like, no matter how good she is, which she is, you're going to have like, maybe she won't have 50% detractors like most people do, but she'll have 30%, 25% detractors that'll think they should have picked this person or that person. And I think if she's able to handle that without it bothering her,
it might be 2% with her. I mean, in the
well,
basketball
I would say
world,
yes until you get I would say, like, in your first year now, maybe you have great success, doesn't matter. You get a couple of losses, you're going to get some detractors. No
yeah. I mean,
matter
listen, we haven't won a championship since what, 2016.
right.
So we're on an potential 8-year. And when you say a couple of losses, right? Like, I don't think she's going to come in and like now we're going to all of a sudden not be competing to win the Big East.
Of course you are. Yeah, you're going to win.
It's going to be okay.
National.
Are we
It's gonna be
competing to win a national? Like, we're not talking about.
No.
So I think the detraction level is very different because you're not going to see that big of a drop off. You know what I mean? And she's going to be able to still get the top kids to go there, which I think is crucial.
Well, the thing that you brought up, which you just kind of brought up casually, was that she has her own AAU clubs, much like you do as well, right? Or you did, and that is, I think, a huge thing in being able to, not just the players that are on your club. I'm not just talking about those players. I'm talking about that network, right? Like, that network is really the big network now. And it's this way now in football, because I was just going through it in, like, the club that I run, and this will be our 4th year, and I haven't even finished it yet. And I have alumni that I'm doing, like, an alumni thing. This is only going to be my 4th year doing it, and we already have, like, and I'm not done with all the alumni. I'm at 30 something guys that are in college, all right, already, and that's just the beginning. So that AAU style network is huge because you only have good, only players that are on your teams are good players, and the other people you compete against when you're at the higher levels of this stuff are good teams, and you build that network. So I think that that's a good transition thing as well. I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, she'd have to give that up, obviously, if she were to take this job, because you can't have that and be a Division I
You
coach.
can't own it.
Correct. But what you said is crucial. It's the network, right? So she knows all these AAU programs and all these AAU coaches. Forget that. They all know her.
Correct.
So that's number one. I think something that, like, a lot of these current players that are going to the league or whatever don't have that she has, because she had to in her career, is the overseas network, which is even bigger.
True. I know nothing about that. So yeah, you're right.
She's got connections everywhere with outlets of players to be able to pull, and knowing, the top people in all these different organizations and Turkey and Russia and everywhere else. It's a huge game changer.
It's a good point.
I think what was overshined a little bit.
Financial wise, fundraising, that's going to be, because obviously that's a big thing, right? So she checks a box that maybe even Geno can't check from that standpoint, right?
She checks, in my opinion, she checks all the boxes. If you're going to nitpick, the only box she doesn't check is to officially have had a title of being head coach before.
Right.
But, I mean, let's face it. Let's look at the USA team this year, right? And everybody made a big thing about her being on the team. She absolutely should have been on the team. There's no doubt in my mind she should have been on the team. Why do you think the number one reason that USA basketball, which, by the way, that's another connection that she has an inroad with, because she's been playing USA basketball since she was a teenager, they kept her on that team to coach and mentor all of the younger players to be able to adapt and play against teams from overseas. They kept her on there to be a player coach. That was her number one thing. If I'm USA basketball and you had to ask me why, that was why. Is to keep these young kids that are coming on the team. Yeah, they're the future, but you need those veterans there in order to teach them the style that, listen, it's going to be different. The physicality, the speed is going to be a little different. All these different things. She has that experience. She basically has been a player coach her entire life. So I don't know. I mean, again, these are all big what ifs.
And
right?
who would be her Chris Daly? Like, who would be, like?
I think Morgan could. Morgan,
Okay.
and that was what I was just about to say, is one thing that I didn't like touch upon too much in that last podcast, Morgan's a phenomenal recruiter.
Right.
Phenomenal recruiter. She's basically one of the main recruiters for him right now. I mean, she's responsible, she's the one that recruited Kelsey Plum to go to Washington, right? And we all see what Kelsey Plum's doing now and the career that she had at Washington. I mean, these kids that we have now, she's played a huge role in getting all of these kids, John Al-Afi from Egypt, etc. She's a phenomenal, phenomenal recruiter. She knows the style of kids that we want. She knows the ones that will fit within our systems. She's done an awesome job recruiting. She's organized. She's a little bit more like structure oriented.
Right.
And I think Diana would be. And Diana's very like, people forget. I mean, she's like trilingual. Like she is super, super intelligent. Her, past her basketball IQ, she's got a strong business IQ. I mean, the stuff that she's invested in and that she's a part of have all been really strategic her entire career. So there's a lot of stuff about her that people don't really realize, again, because she's pretty private. But you're not talking about like, some 26-year-old that just stopped playing in the WNBA and now wants to go be a head coach. I mean, you're talking about a business savvy professional woman who happens to be probably the greatest of all time at the sport, who I think would do an amazing job carrying on this next generation. And she's relatable. Like that's a big thing right now with recruiting is like the kids have to like you a little bit. They don't want to go and play for somebody that they can't relate to. And, there's that likability factor, which is just another box checked off for her. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can talk about this till I'm blue in the face. Like I said, it's a wish list, but I think it would be so awesome for him to pass the torch to her. Whether or not that would happen, who knows? But, as Joe said, like that's just me thinking outside the box. Like I think his two responses are very basic and probably really like natural responses. Like, all right, if you want to keep it in the family, Carla makes sense, Shay makes sense. They're both great coaches, etc. But I just think that for this, you have to think a little bit outside of the box if you want to be able. Like Tennessee didn't think outside the box, and I think they're kicking themselves a little bit for that.
Right.
Because they've had so many years now where they've gone backwards. They're getting a little bit of better traction now, but they're still nowhere near where they were, years ago. Like I was surprised that Kara Lawson didn't apply for the Tennessee job when it opened
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
But she's got a good thing where she is, and I get that too. And
Maybe she didn't want to follow Pat
but
Summer.
that's the thing. I think it takes a really, really unique situation. I do think this fits into that unique situation, but we'll see.
I'm trying to think of situations where people have followed legends and had a lot of success.
Well,
It's
you
just
got, if you think about UConn, right? Like you had Kevin Ollie,
that
who came in
crash.
after Calhoun. He had success, but obviously for other extenuating circumstances, that didn't work out.
Right.
But it
But then
did
the
at
next
first.
guy, which became Hurley, right,
Correct.
is a
So
massive success. So I know that it's usually they always say like it's about you what you said earlier. It's better to not be the next person, but the person after the next person because you can
yeah,
learn what their mistakes were and trying to follow a legend, which is
yeah,
super hard. Like listen, Alabama's dealing with this right now, following Nick Saban. Like guy's a great coach, but
yep,
like how are you going to get to be beloved when the greatest football coach maybe in the history of football, college football, leaves, right? And I think that's a difficult thing. And I'm thinking in the basketball, like who followed John Wooden? I don't know. I don't think you do either, right? So
no.
nobody knows who it is, and they've been in the back
Again,
of
an
the.
impossible follow. An
It's an
impossible
impossible.
follow.
Well, Geno
Impossible.
Geno is. I mean, if you talk about the Mount Rushmore of basketball coaching, he's on it, right? I
Yep,
mean,
yep.
and
Well, and
yeah,
one thing we didn't talk about, you touched upon it a little bit, right? Like with the fundraising piece or whatever. And we talked about it last week with the NIL and all these different things. as a university, you have to start thinking outside of the box, and especially a place like UConn, like you can't mess this one up. You
Yep.
got to bring in somebody who's going to still have that attraction power, who's going to bring different marketing opportunities to the school, both for the athletes and the school. I can't think of another like person that you could put there that's going to bring more opportunities like that than her. Um, it's a big deal. There's a lot of different, you know, variables on this, but I do think that she checks the box in a lot of different ways, and I think she can handle the. You talked before about the detract. Like, listen, that kid she has like the thickest skin of anyone out there. I don't think that you could say to her anything to her that she wouldn't find a way to spin it, laugh about it, and maybe poke fun back. Like, she has the thickest skin of anyone. I don't think that she would fear the pressure at all, because I think that's a big thing too, is like it's got to be for whoever steps in there, it's going to be an uphill battle at first if you don't have the right personality and the right demeanor to be able to take all that stuff on.
Well, the biggest question will be, does she want to take on that type of a job after retiring? You know what I mean? Like after playing
So
all those years.
the funny thing is like she could, like I said, she could easily go and be like a GM
That's what
somewhere
I'm
or go
saying,
and
right?
own her own thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Knowing what I know about her, and I've said this to her, like, I think she'll miss it too much. Like, I
Right,
think she'll miss like being in the gym and growing the sport and being around it the way that you are when you coach.
right.
Now, maybe I'm wrong, but I think I know her well enough to know that. Like, okay, could she go? Yeah, I'll go and coach my kids' rec team or what? Like, it's just not the same. It's like I think she'll miss the competition of it, like the fierce, intense competition of sport. I think she'll miss the goal reaching that you can go, that you can get to. I don't know, man. Like, if that ever happened, think about like 25 years from now. What an amazing story. It would be an amazing movie / documentary / everything if that all unfolded that way, the way that I think that it would if she actually did it.
I'm trying to think of people that have decided to go that route. In basketball, it's a lot more likely that that does happen.
Well, you got Dawn Staley, right? Now she didn't go to Virginia where
You know,
she graduated from, but she's creating that next gen legacy in her own way.
but she didn't go to Virginia though.
Right, she didn't, which is why this story is a little bit more unique. I don't think that there's another one out there. Well,
Yeah.
because let's put it this way:
What
there's
about
never
the
been.
LSU? Oh, she played at Louisiana Tech, right?
Yeah, she played at Louisiana Tech, and listen, she's only been at LSU for what, a couple of years,
Right,
right? She did most of her damage at Baylor, but
right.
I think, and the unique part of it is that to step into the legacy that's already built is hard enough on its own. To then be able to carry it on and maybe grow it even further is just unheard of. It just would be amazing.
No, it would. I mean, I'm trying to think on the men's side. I can't think of anybody, even on the men's side, that have done it. Because you got okay, so but he wasn't the biggest name. When Juwan Howard goes to Michigan, he's not the biggest. He's a pro and he was part of the Fab Five, but he wasn't the it wasn't like Chris Webber took the job. You know what I mean? And there was no legendary coach before that.
There
In
also
front of
wasn't, all the national championships that you have
right.
to live up to. Is just different.
Yeah, it's different, and his personality's not like Diana's in the sense that he's a little more. I don't want to use the word insecure, but he's got a little bit more like a chip that things bother him. Whereas
Not as
that's
likable.
yeah, whereas that's the one thing that most players Diana doesn't have that where most players have to get the thing that got them to be great is the chip, and when you're a coach, that chip can get in the way. You want to have a chip as a coach, but that you can't have the chip where the fact that you could struggle as a coach, you can't let that affect your decisions because as a player, it can affect your decisions and it could make you better in things you do because of your drive. but as a coach, that extra drive could actually work against you,
Yeah.
depending on what you're doing.
Well, and like when you think of the Fab Five, right, from Michigan, like Chris Webber, super likable,
Yep.
right? Jalen Rose, super likable. Juwan Howard was kind of the bad boy of the bunch.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like if it was Jalen or Chris, like maybe. But again, but you still don't have the legacy.
There's no legacy though. Right.
There's no legacy,
There's no,
so it's just different. It's a really unique situation either way.
it would be cool. It would be very, very cool. And it was funny when Joe said GM, and then I said, they're going to need a GM with her, and I said that they should bring you, but part of it was because we just had that whole discussion, remember, about the GM thing. I remember as I saw your face when Joe said it, you're like, Joe, we just had this discussion. I just poo-pooed this whole thing, and now you're saying you're.
Well, but you know what he's saying? He's not necessarily saying a general manager. Basically, what he's saying is a director of basketball operations that's doing all those higher
now
levels.
I'm going to become the general manager.
Correct.
Yeah.
Like that Dobo role is basically what that's going to become because you're going to have to manage all that stuff.
Yeah.
So instead of like hiring a Dobo who just graduated from college, like these people are going to have to be highly qualified and really become director of basketball operations. They're going to have financial backgrounds and all that other stuff.
That is the biggest difference, and that's what people don't. But in the past, people threw these the ops person was either the person they really didn't want to be a coach yet, or wasn't ready to be a coach.
Wasn't ready. They're ordering meals. They're doing the schedule. They're making sure the buses are on time. It's like scut work, man. It's scut work.
That's your job.
It's a role that's very
your job as D3 coach, right?
Yeah, I do all of it. Trust me, I know. But it's a necessary role. You can't function without it, but it is. It's like it's scut work. It's like, the residents that before they become doctors, they got to go through all that stuff, and they're doing, they're changing bedpans and doing stitches. But yeah, no, it's we'll see. I mean, we'll see how it unfolds. It'll be interesting. But she'll probably kill me because I've been talking about it so much lately. Like stop, man, stop. Penny's not going to move to Connecticut. And I'm like, all right. But she did send me a house in New Canaan that she liked. I said, New Canaan is like an hour and 40 minutes from campus. She goes, oh, I'll just get a helicopter. I'm like, oh, okay, man.
They like the
what's also cool too that I didn't talk about is she was a huge Kobe disciple. She had a really, really great relationship, really special relationship with Kobe, which, as we know, Kobe and his daughter were very, very big UConn fans. So, also another cool tie-in.
I 100% knew that. I remember when that happened. They talked about how much she was a UConn fan.
Yeah,
I remember that, like all the.
Well, Diana spoke at his memorial.
Did she really?
Yeah. Yep.
That's interesting. That's really, really interesting stuff. What is is she in LA? Is that where she lives now? And that's where she's from, right? She was from California.
Chino. Yep.
Okay.
So it was like, what is that, 45 minutes away or something like that? Yeah. So she has her place in Phoenix, and then that she, that her and her family live in throughout the WNBA season, and then she has her place on Manhattan Beach out in Cali.
Very interesting. That would be quite a change in lifestyle.
Yeah.
Well, at least taxes wise, it won't be a change for her because she's in California. She
might benefit a little bit actually from Connecticut.
Yeah, I think it would be. Yeah, it
would be. Cost of living is definitely way different out here.
It's actually way lower than California.
Way,
yeah. Way.
Well, she's asking me about the schools and stuff. I said, there's actually a lot of really great schools in Connecticut. You got Kingswood, Oxford, you got Choate. You have a lot of awesome, because she's got 2 young children. She has a son who I believe he's got to be 5 or 6 right now. He looks like he's 12. He's huge. Okay. And then her daughter, I think, is going to be like 3.5, or she just turned 3, I think. So
interesting. Yeah. Where's my dog? Where's my dog? What do you need, bud?
Is that your actual Is that your house background, or is that just something you put
No,
up?
that's my. You wouldn't be. It would just be a wall behind me,
Oh, I gotcha.
the white wall.
Yeah.
So I'm lucky enough to be in the operating out of the basement, and all the couches are to my right. Everything, I have like um a where I am is there's a wall behind me, but I face out, and it's my basement, and there's the couches, and then I have all my son's workout stuff,
Oh, I
like
gotcha.
little
Nice.
boxes and you know tiny like little weights and little trampolines and all these things down here. You know what I mean? But I
Yeah, nice.
operate out of it. It's the only thing you would see is a green screen. Have you ever seen the background? I don't think you have. Yeah, let's see.
No.
Yeah, there it
I've
is.
seen you. Oh, there. I've seen you when you
Yeah,
you have the fireplace in the background. Were you upstairs and you do that?
the fireplace in the back. That's not my place. No. So
Ah,
yeah. So I do have a fireplace upstairs, but it's a totally different setup.
gotcha.
So if you, I don't know if I can even flip it around where my camera is. I mean, with my computer. But if I flipped it around, you could. I don't think. Oh no, because it's on my computer camera. But flipped around, it's like totally. It would. All you would see is there's a wall right here. That's it. I face the wall, so there's
All
no
right.
other way. Otherwise, I would have to go back to the days of being in an office, which,
Nobody wants that.
well, I thought about it because the stuff I actually am at a point where doing so many shows and the YouTube shorts and stuff are doing is growing so fast, and I get all these deals that a lot of them are bullshit, but I get all these. I mean, I must get 4 or 5 companies, most of them bullshit, reach out to me a day. Can we do a deal?
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah. Because once you get, but most of them are like, uh, I liken it to like if you're a player that gets all these NIL things coming to you, 15% if you pitch this and 20% if you pitch that.
Oh yeah, I get that stuff on my Instagram. People always wanting me to be like an influencer. They
Yes,
they clearly haven't done their homework. I have zero time to influence anything. I'm barely getting through the day here, man.
it's exactly, and then because we run like I mean, I used to run all these football camps and showcases. That's what I used to do for. I mean, I still run them, but I don't run as many. I run like 15 now. I used to run 100 showcases around the country for football.
Yeah, I give you
So
credit because I'll tell you, like, I love AAU because I give kids an opportunity to grow the game and get better. But I got to tell you, man, it's the worst. It's the
it's
worst. It's
exhausting.
the parents. It's the parents. It's not even the kids. It's
Oh yeah.
it's kind of crazy, but yeah. So what do you got planned for the holiday? You hosting? What's going on?
Uh, Christmas, yes, but on Sunday we're going to North Carolina to visit my mother's and their family. And because my father lives up here, in New Jersey, but my mother lives in North Carolina. She's been down there for uh, I don't know 30 years. So so we're going down there for a couple of days, and then we're flying back up here and the host Christmas up here too. So
Nice.
it'll be very, very busy. And then Sunday I'm going to the Jets game. My son doesn't know that yet, but and
All
he's
right.
yep. So we're
Yeah,
taking
my I ended up uh, I'll probably run into our boy Steve. I got me and my daughter tickets to the UConn USC game tomorrow night that she doesn't know, so it's
Ooh,
an early Christmas present. So we're gonna go have a mommy daughter night up there. It'll be fun.
that'll be fun. That'll
Yeah,
be great.
hopefully we'll come out with a W.
Is what is USC's team ranked this year?
What are they, fourth or fifth right now? They got Juju Watkins. They
Yeah, I
got
know Juju. Yeah,
yeah, I think they're in the top five. I'm
is
not sure
she
what they are this week.
is she going to be the #1 pick next year?
Well, she'll only be a junior next year, so
She can't come out next this year.
I mean, I guess she can if but
She's not going to
I
bother.
don't
Yeah,
see why she would. Like, with all the NIL money she's making.
it's crazy.
Um, it's like the Page thing. I assume she'll stay 4 years.
Yeah,
That would
yeah,
be
yeah.
my guess. So yeah, she's only a sophomore. This is crazy.
That,
Let's see.
yep.
USC this week is 7th. 4
Just
versus
seven.
7 this week.
Who did they lose to?
Yeah. Which I'm actually surprised they're 7th. I think they should be higher. They only have 1 loss.
And who
So
was that? Who was that loss to? Did they lose?
I
They
don't
lost.
know. It wasn't a good loss. I'm trying to think of who they lost to. I'll have to find it out. I know I watched it, but now let's see here. Pull it up. It was early on too, at like a tournament or something. Let's see here. It wasn't Ole Miss. They won that game by 2. That's gonna bother me now. Oh, they lost to Notre Dame.
I
Yep,
lost to Notre Dame's good,
that's
huh?
right. I forgot about that. Yeah, so that makes sense then. But yeah, I think they're better than LSU. I think they're better than some. These rankings right now mean nothing. It's like
Yeah. Well, what the of the college coaches that are out there right now, like at Division One, who do you taking Geno out of the mix because obviously you have an affinity for Geno, haven't played for him.
yeah.
Who do you think are really like the top coaches in women's basketball?
I mean, I think Dawn Staley's probably second right now. Um, I think she's proven that even when she loses big studs to the WNBA, she can just reload and redo it. So I think she's probably got to be number 2. I like Niele Ivy at Notre Dame. I think she's a good coach. I'm not a Notre Dame fan for obvious reasons, but I think
Right.
I think she does a decent job there. I'm interested to see what the Stanford coach does after Tara Vanderveer this year. She was an assistant with Tara for many years, but I think she'll make a pretty good coach as well. I think the USC coach is a good coach. I think she does a good job recruiting. Um, so I like them. They're on the younger side, so they're up and coming. Um, so I would say that those are a couple of my faves this year.
Do
I'm not a Kim Mulkey fan.
you're not? What is it you don't like about Kim Mulkey?
Um, I don't think that she does a great job putting her players in spots to be successful. Like if I look at Haley Van Lith from last year, so they
I was
brought
thinking
her
about
in
that.
from
Yep.
Louisville, and I thought they actually exposed her to be a worse player. Like
Yep.
she just totally didn't use her appropriately. So I don't really love that. I don't love her. I
She
like
put
her
her in
passion.
bad matchup situations, I thought.
Every single game, it was like crazy. It's like, why do you have her guarding this person? It made no sense. But I also, it's great to be passionate and be emotional. I just think that she's a little over the top. Like you couldn't pay me all the NIL money in the world to go play for her. That's just me personally.
Well,
I didn't
she's a
love what she.
fit. She's a fit in the Bayou because
Yeah, she is. She is. I didn't love all the stuff she did with Brittany Griner. So from just a character integrity standpoint, I just don't love her. But what are you gonna do? She wins, so she's doing something right.
well,
I don't know.
she's got that. Have you spent any time in Louisiana?
Very frequently.
Oh, you have? Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Just to go out and have a good time or like
Yeah, I've been to New Orleans a couple times for AAU when I was younger. We went out to Baton Rouge a lot. Um, yeah, so I've been out there a bunch. I
I
like
think
it. I mean, I love New Orleans. I love
yep.
New Orleans. Definitely a different freaking vibe down
It's
there
a
now.
different vibe. Yeah. So I've been out to Baton
Yeah.
Rouge so many times for events they run and like hung out with the coaches like from around there and obviously been in New Orleans a lot.
Yeah.
But when you've been to like I've been to like Baton Rouge, I've been to Lutcher, I've been to like some of the kind of outlier areas too. And I've realized why she's such a good fit, like as far as like her personality is and kind of how they all toe the line in Louisiana of
Oh yeah.
between over the edge and right on the right side, and everything is that way.
Yeah.
And one of the funny stories I told Steve the story. I was running the camp in it was Dutchtown High School, which is like right outside Baton Rouge, and the coach is there, but a couple of them played at LSU, big gigantic guys. And we come out of there, And usually this is when I was younger, we go out, and to like to a bar or something, or get something to eat. Well, they're like, go get dressed. We're gonna take you guys out. I'm like, all right, cool. So we go get dressed, and we meet them, and they take us out, and we're driving, and we're driving, and we're driving, and we're driving, and I'm like, where are we going, dude? And I was the one driving. So we have all these guys, who travel around, they're all from different areas. There are guys from the South, but the coaches from around there obviously knew around there. So we finally get to this place, and there's nothing around it, but there's a barn, and it's a gigantic barn. I mean, gigantic. And there's cars everywhere, like parked on the hill and parked everywhere. And I'm like, this is the place. So we get out, and obviously there's lots of people there. We go into the bar. I would call it like a bar / club. You know what I mean? Because there was a dance floor.
Yep.
And there was a big gigantic bar, and it was literally like a bayou party broke out in the middle of this barn. But it was actually a business. You know what I mean? It wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't a bar where people were just drinking, you know what I mean? It was actual business. They had a bouncer and everything. You had to pay cover. But I couldn't believe it because we literally drove like 15 miles nowhere, like on a dark road. I was like, how am I, because everyone left at different times. I'm like, how am I getting back, dude? Like I could.
It's one of those scenarios, like, you ever been to a place, like only to a place at night, and then you go there during the day and you're like, oh my gosh, this, like, I used to think that about Huskies. Right, because for years I only went to Huskies like after 10 o'clock.
Right.
And then you go in there like during the day and you're like, oh, this is totally different.
It's totally different.
It's totally different.
It seems much smaller too, right?
Yeah, it does. It's like, how do all those people fit on the dance floor? It's like crazy. It's nuts.
It's crazy. Like you're 100% right. Like when you're in a place and you're like partying, like Huskies is super small.
Oh, so tiny. It's so,
like I
the amount
never
of people
realized
it had to be a fire like situation every single time. There were so many people in there. It was nuts. And I never even made it. Like, I remember I went in there my 5th year. I forget, there was some like, I don't know if it was like a trivia night or whatever. I had never even been to like that far side of the bar, like furthest away from the main door, because by the time we got there, that was all packed. You couldn't even walk there. So if you wanted a beverage, you just went to that side bar.
Yeah.
So I had never even, I was like, oh, there's a whole other side to this bar that I never even knew about. Yes. Crazy. But so there was one coach that I forgot to mention that I want to mention because she's a Husky alum. Shay Ralph is doing a phenomenal job at Vanderbilt. She got one of the top recruits last year. And the girl is lighting it up. She's really fun to watch. She's doing a really phenomenal job there. And Vanderbilt used to have like a track record of success. And then they went downhill for a bit. And I really think she's going to revitalize that program and like, she's a country girl. So she's probably, I know she's loving living in Nashville and like that whole country vibe. So she's doing a great job. And the last thing I'm going to leave you with is a suggestion. Are you ready for this?
Yes.
I think at some point, either next spring, early summer, we find like some sponsors or whatever to pay for a trip for all these different pockets of pods. And we go like long weekend to an all-inclusive resort. And we do all the shows live back to back to back from the resort one day.
That's a great idea. Well, that's what when you see like what Barstool does now, have you seen how they do that? Yeah. Like
we should totally do that.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I even think we should try to do it like twice a year, like one somewhere like nice and like tropical, so we can like enjoy each other and like have fun. And then do someone like go somewhere else crazy random once a year. It could even be to like Vermont in some cabin, like some big cabin, and like we set up a studio and we just go back to back to back and then just like enjoy.
Great idea.
Because I think part of it too is that we get an opportunity to brainstorm with each other on different ideas on how to grow it, etc. It's good when you come together because we're all doing stuff in silos, but I think that would be really, really cool.
I think that's a great idea. it's funny because I was just watching because Barstool since they brought on John Gruden to do this whole, I mean, it is. I don't know if John Gruden knows he's that funny or not, but
Yeah.
he is fucking hilarious. Not trying to be. I don't think he's trying to be hilarious.
No.
He's hilarious. Obviously educational for a lot of people that don't know football, but hilarious in the sense that his like approach to it with the Barstool people and the way that Barstool has all those people there, even if they're there, some of them are there temporarily. Like you said, they bring them in, like Will Compton and the other guy that does they do the show. They work for Barstool, the pro football players. They're there like sometimes and then they're gone, But they were all there, I think, for some shooting when Gruden was there doing stuff with the other Barstool guys, and they have them all there. It's a great idea. Like it gives you so much cool content. You cross-pollinate,
Mm-hmm.
And what it ends up being is evergreen content too, because that kind of stuff lasts. Like that's where you get the things that last a very long time that you start seeing, you see them years later.
Yeah. All right, Stu, make it happen. Let's do it.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
You know who we can talk to about that? Jamar Wilkins, who I know is a friend of the pod. He's a travel agent.
Yes, he is.
So maybe he can hook us up. We'll have him out, be a guest speaker that same weekend. Maybe we'll even get Diana to make a trip out and we interview her live.
I think we could get a lot of guests to come out for it.
Yeah, so let's do it.
That's a great idea. I'm going to brainstorm this. I may have to bounce this back off of you.
Yeah, it's fine.
So come on, maybe we do it in like you said, a northeast spot to start, like at a cabin, and then we get like something in either. I'm trying to think of what's the dead time for most people. Probably some part of the summer, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I would say like the end of June or like mid-July. You don't want to do it around like that 4th of July mark because that's busy. You got to wait for kids to get out of school, but
and before football starts.
Yep.
At least for me, because then I'm coaching the Rugrats as they run around, getting them going.
Mid-July.
That's a good idea. That may be the first one, and then we do a winter thing where we have them all come in New England, which would be really cool. Like at the end of like the football season before basketball gets crazy.
Yeah.
Or maybe even for you, maybe before the basketball season, like as the main part of football season starts to end.
Yeah, if it's in New England, like I can work it around my schedule anyways, because I could probably drive. So
cool. Great idea. Let's end on that. That's a great idea. Now you got my mind going. That would be phenomenal.
Gotta start working on that beach bod, man. Start now.
Gotta keep working out. I gotta up my
By the way, you gotta change your picture on the intro. I think you look much better with a little bit of silver.
Silver?
Yeah. I'm taking
picture. I have so many pictures that
whatever one you showed the other day on Joe's thing. You have really dark hair. You
look like
you put a little bit too much gel on the sides potentially. I think the natural silver look is much better.
The silver look.
It's a good look.
Yeah, that's probably all these pictures I have from when I was running camp. Those are all the ones I grabbed from the internet.
We even have a headset on in one, right?
Probably from coaching, coaching high school. Those are all from like when I'm 40 and under, I would say, or early 40s and under, because when I was traveling.
You're 80 man, so just own it. There you go.
I'm trying. I hit 50. I hit 50 this year, and
man.
I'll be 51 in February.
All right. Are you a Pisces? Are you a Pisces?
I am Aquarius.
So you're the other side. Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
You're in your what, early 40s?
I just turned 41 in November.
Just turned 40. Okay. So, well, come here, bud. Come here. 50 was interesting because 40 for me was like, come here. What's the problem? Come here. Come here. 40 was like, oh, okay, I'm like, I'm really an adult. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Get your shit together.
get your shit. Yeah. I got to make sure I have everything right. That was already when I was. I met my wife, and I was already about to have my kid, and so I was an older dad to begin with. But 50 was like, when I turned 50, I was like, okay, wait a minute. Like, this is like when I thought about people who were 50 when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, oh,
Like,
what
oh, they're
happened?
old as hell.
You thought they were old as hell, and like,
Yeah.
how much longer did they have? So,
You figure, listen, like if you're lucky to live to 100, then you're halfway done, man. So
yes,
that's it. And that's if you're lucky.
that's
That's
if
the
you're
way I
lucky.
look at it. I'm like, all right, I'm 41. If I get to 80, like I'll sign up for that. But that means I'm halfway done. I got to pick it up.
That's the weirdest. That's the weirdest thing. That
Mhm.
was the weirdest thing about being 40. You're like, am I halfway done at this point?
Yep.
50 is like, am I more than halfway done? It's the
If you're lucky, right? Like if you're lucky.
yeah, if you can stay healthy. If you
Yeah.
can stay healthy, right?
Well, that's why
So
you got to get the beach bod going. You'll be
that's
all
it.
set.
That's
Yep.
it. Oh
Oh
man. All
man.
right. Well, I'll let you go.
All right.
Just
Have a great Christmas.
have a great Christmas, and then I'll see you hopefully next week. Yeah, next week.
All right.
That'll be what
Sounds
the
good.
28th. All right. Have a great one.
Yeah. All right. You too. Bye.
Bye.